Right. And how did you prepare for NID entrance exam?
Had applied to a coaching classes because I had no one I knew who was applying for NID back then. And yeah, I mean, we used to sort of, I used to go to those classes every Sunday. They used to give us some papers to solve and they used to help us prepare a portfolio. And there were like a lot of mock interviews and all those things that used to happen. So I did that, but then somewhere deep down, I was like, is this actually going to come in the exam?
And what was
So
the differentiating factor in Rachana and NID?
Rachana Sansad was more or less like a college, right? There were fixed hours, and once you're done, once your college shift is done, you go back home. But NID was different. It's like you can stay in the campus till late in the night, even after the classes are done. The libraries are open till late, and the studios are open.
Hello, Shirish sir. Welcome to Designers Unleashed. I'll just give a brief introduction about what Designers Unleashed is. It's a series of talk show aimed to break various myths and misconceptions about design world. Through discussions with industry professionals, design faculties, and students from top design schools, the show seeks to dismember design education and industry. So, there are various topics on which we talk about, and in general, we discuss the myths that generally students face and come across, or difficulties they come across. And today, we've invited Shirish Ghatge sir to share his experience. Just a short introduction about Shirish sir. He's completed his undergraduate degree in applied arts from Rachana Sansad of Applied Art and Craft. Then he completed his master's in animation film design from National Institute of Design, that's in Ahmedabad. Then he started working with various design studios like Bombay Duck Designs and Quick Brown Fox Design Studios. He collaborated on projects for NGOs like Saje Sapne Sangat and brands like Netflix and GQ. Now, currently, he is a senior brand designer in fintech sector, pushing creative boundaries and leaving a mark on every project. Over to you, sir.
Thanks for inviting me over. And let's start this session. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So, sir, can you just tell how did your design journey started?
uh, I mean, to be very precise, it all started as a kid. Yeah, I mean, drawing was one thing that I was very close to, and I mean, ever since I was a child, I was only good at drawing at that time, and my parents saw it and eventually decided that I'll enter into a similar field, maybe architecture or applied arts or fine arts. Earlier, there was a lot of confusion because there was no one to guide us properly which stream would be better. But then I did my research, I spoke to a lot of people, and then I decided to take up applied arts because according to people who sort of mentored me or were trying to guide me, they said that that's a safer bet than fine arts, which I don't know. It's a very controversial decision, like topic. But yeah, I mean, I chose applied arts, and then eventually I realized that drawing is something that I want to pursue further. So I did my specialization in illustration when I was in my third year in Rachana Sansad. And eventually I realized that I wanted to learn further. I wanted to see how much of illustration could be pushed further. So I did my master's in animation film design in NID. I just wanted to draw more and I wanted to see how my drawings could how they are seen in motion and everything, and that's the reason I wanted to sort of you know uh, pursue animation and see for myself, like if that's something that I would want to like take up. So
Oh,
yeah, I think that was pretty much my journey.
okay. So, how was your transition from Rachna Sansad to NID? Like, how did you crack the entrance exam? How did you prepare for it? And what was
So
the differentiating factor in Rachna and NID for you?
both the institutes are have their own way of teaching you. Rachana Sansad was more or less like a college, right? There were fixed hours, and once you're done, once your college shift is done, you go back home. But NID was different. It's like you can stay in the campus till late in the night, even after the classes are done. The libraries are open till late, and the studios are open. So a lot of us, what we used to do is even after our courses are done, we used to sit in the campus and we used to finish our assignments. So the interaction between the students was more, right? No one had to go home. Everyone had to go to either their hostels or whatever PG they have like chosen for themselves. So in general, in NID, we interacted with the student, like the students interacted with each other more. So the environment, which we would say like a college environment or an art environment, was there for most part of the day. That's only when you leave the campus and go back to your room is when you get detached from it. But most of the time we used to be there till 10, 11 in the night, or in fact sometimes even late. So when you're in that environment, you are all the time motivated, and you're all the time surrounded by people who are more creative than you, are very different from you, and there are there's like a lot of exchange of ideas. So those are something that you don't get to experience in a college in a city. I mean, you do, but it is timed, right? Like from 10 to 12 or whatever, 10 to 3. And then once your college is done, you go back home.
Right.
Unless you decide to meet up with your, your batchmates somewhere and you brainstorm further. But that used to happen more in NID. So that was the only difference. And also, yeah, the alumni connection was stronger. A lot of alumni used to come to teach as visiting faculties in NID. And that was something that not used to happen in college. Colleges have their fixed faculties, right? But in NID, for every course, a lot like most of the courses, they used to call back the alumni. So we used to get to interact with the alumni because otherwise these people are really busy. You don't get to meet them or talk to them. But that kind of exposure we used to get in NID. So there are such things which were different when it comes to NID versus Rachna or any other art college. But there is definitely a lot of things that I learned from Rachna also, because that was like my first step, right? So my introduction to the art and design world. So if that foundation wasn't built, then NID's experience would have been completely different. So yeah, both of them have their own positives.
Right. And how did you prepare for NID entrance exam for masters?
So I also had applied to a coaching classes because I had no one I knew who was applying for NID back then. And yeah, I mean, we used to I used to go to those classes every Sunday, and they used to give us some papers to solve, and they used to help us prepare a portfolio, and there were like a lot of mock interviews and all those things that used to happen. So I did that, but then somewhere deep down, I was like, is this actually going to come in the exam? And because what used to happen back then, now I don't know what's the situation, but earlier the question paper, like the paper pattern used to be different every year for an AD.
True.
They never had a set paper pattern. So even though I'm like studying and preparing, I don't know whether this is exactly what is going to come in the exam, right? So I was
Right.
not sure, like, does this even make sense? But then I still thought that at least I'll be prepared for anything. So I tried to be as serious and sincere towards those classes as possible. And since during my college days, I was working on my art, like my practice was going on. So that kind of complimented me for my preparation in my exams also, because
Okay.
I did not take a break. Like immediately as soon as I graduated, the very next year I was in NID.
Okay.
So there was no break. So that's
Right.
why most of the time in college, there used to be assignments. We used to paint and draw for all those things. So my practice was going on. And along with that, when I was preparing for NID, I never had to prepare for it separately or build my portfolio separately, because most of my portfolio or work was being prepared through my college assignments. So
Right.
that was the case for me. But I've seen a lot of people who have taken a break from after their graduation, taken a break, worked for a year or two, and then applied for NID. So in that gap, when they were working, they had to separately work on their portfolio and separately take out time and prepare for exams. Fortunately, I never had to go through that. For me, the process was simpler, and also I got in the very first attempt. That's why I never had to go through that. But yeah, I mean, that was my transition.
Okay. And sir, like you told, every year the paper pattern used to change, and you were not sure if all these things that you're preparing for will come in exam or not. So, after attempting your entrance exam and after getting into the college, what do you feel? Why this changing paper pattern, or what was NID trying to judge from the entrance exam in a particular candidate?
Yeah, I think I realized even when I was preparing for these exams, one thing I noticed there is a pattern. One thing I noticed was that through all these different question papers, they try to uh, judge your creativity. They want to see what kind of unique solutions can you provide, or what kind of unique solutions can you come up with. Uh, drawing a car or drawing a human being is something that you can master over time with practice. But if there is a catch to it, if they add some twist to the question, how quickly can you think for a solution, of a solution for that particular question? I think their focus is on that. They want to see how quickly you can be creative and how can you resolve this issue. So even if your drawing is 6 on 10, 7 on 10, but your idea is amazing, they are behind your idea because they think that craft is something that you can hone by practicing, but creativity you cannot measure. So they are behind the creativity. So that's why a lot of these uh, I have some friends who are preparing for NID. Like I've met them through some drawing groups, and they're so much focused on perfecting their sketching. And I'm like, "Ki, just don't perfect your sketching. Think of unique ways of through which you can present your portfolio, unique ways of observing what you're drawing. Like, you can like break away. If you're drawing a person, you can just break away, make the head big, hands small, or do be creative because that is what they're looking for. They're not looking for literally someone who can like, copy paste something or someone who's like just good at his craft. There are several people who are good at their craft, but
Right.
what it takes is how you see the world. So I think they judge you on your creativity.
And in this changing world of AI, I feel if you're not creative, you will be replaced very easily. Even AI can draw a lot of things, but they need human prompts for it. So that prompt needs to be creative. Apart from that, it's difficult to for an AI also to generate images. So craft, like you told, skill part of it could be replaced in the near future as well.
I mean, so skills like there's like a varied range for skills, right? I mean, if you literally ask me to draw, maybe then yeah, AI can replace it. But if you ask me for composing something really well, if I have made few sketches and I want to
Right.
compose them in a layout, that is something that you need to guide AI to do it, right? Like AI can give you its own compositions, but there are
Right.
things like composition, spacing, and selection of colors and understanding the mood and everything. I think AI is more or less for referencing, for generating ideas, and also to an extent the skill, but it cannot conquer creativity. It cannot like take over that.
True.
So if you can, so for instance, even if there is someone like me who is generating a poster from AI and someone whose fundamentals are weak, some student who is still learning, whose color composition skills or whose anatomy study of anatomy is not that weak. If he generates something and I'll generate something, there'll be a difference in the output because I know exactly what I'm looking for, and for that I need to have that fundamental knowledge of what a good anatomy is, what are the best suitable colors for this poster, and what is the best font that I can use. So for that, definitely design education and your practice is required. Unless you don't know your fundamentals, even if you're given an AI tool, you won't be able to like use it to its full potential, I feel.
Right. So, what do you think? How did NID education groom you apart from social interaction or having a social circle?
I think see, social circle, I cannot skip that in this answer, but
Right.
because it's like see, there are so many artists, so many designers. You have like the best coming from all across the country, right? And everyone has their own unique style, own unique way of looking at things, own unique way of observing things. When you see them sitting next to you drawing, and you, when you enter, you feel like, oh, you're one of the best. But when you look at others and you realize you are leagues away or leagues behind, and even small things like the colors they use, the way they hold their brush, or the way they move their hands while drawing and all. There's so much to learn from everyone around you that by the time you graduate from NID, you have absorbed so many things, and your own understanding of those things, your own mistakes, your own consistency of practice, you're like a mixture of everything. So probably you're amazing at your craft, but when you come to NID, you learn more about colors, or you learn more about composition, or you just become more consistent because you are around people who are just drawing day in and day out. So you, because of them, because being around them, you start drawing more. So everyone learns and grows in a different way in NID depending on what they lack in and what kind of people they're surrounded with. And apart from that, you get to when it comes to institution like NID, I realize that the faculties, they make you pay attention to detail a lot. Like a lot of times when we are drawing or whenever we are doing anything, we tend to miss on smaller details, thinking ki ye kaun dekhega. But then, like, they make you look at everything, and they make you question why you've drawn this, why have you used this color, why are you using this music, what's the purpose. And they'll make you question so many things that when you graduate from NID and when you're working professionally, you yourself are very mindful of these things, and you exercise them while working on any of your projects. And that is when you come across people who are like, still trying to, you know, how do I put it? Who are still trying to get their way around design. That is when you'll understand that you personally are putting a lot of attention to detail, whereas the rest of them are trying to just, do the easy job.
Right.
So yeah, attention to detail and all these things are something that they make you like, focus on, because if you don't do it, then during the juries, they'll really take your case.
Right. Okay. So, sir, in your education, have you referred to any set of books, or have you been following any designers or animator online, or any courses that you've done online?
To be honest, all these things blew up now, like in the past 2, 3 years. I graduated in 2019 from NID. So all the exposure to social media and art influencers and designers and all those things are happening now. Now we are exposed more. Back then, when I was in NID, Instagram was just was just starting. It was at a very nascent stage. That time it was only a photo sharing app. We
Right.
never knew how the world is going to change. So for us, no, at least for me and most of my batchmates, our faculties used to suggest us a lot of designers or artists, and they used to suggest us watching movies. And so we learned in a very traditional way, if you'd ask. We used to go to the library, look at books, read those books, or we used to read an e-book for the matter of fact, or we used to watch YouTube videos, or we used to literally watch movies to understand how a particular animation was done. But now, if you just type that animation or that movie and you just write animation breakdown, you'll find hundreds of videos on YouTube. But we used to literally watch the movie, pause it, replay it over and over again to understand. So when I was in college, things were still picking up. Now I think students have a lot of resources, and this whole uh, e-learning thing has also like blown up, right? So you
Right.
get courses for literally everything. So I think that was not there in our case, but then we had like faculties who were very serious about the craft and all of that. So we learned from them. So we learned from the best only in one way or the other, but in a very traditional fashion, if I would say.
Okay. Any skill you would recommend any particular student should gain before entering NID, or before entering an animation career, apart from sketching?
Apart from sketching, I would uh, I would suggest that it's not a skill, But how do I put it? So watching movies, I think I learned a lot watching movies, like, and I'm not talking about just the narrative or the story, but learning how the movie has been shot, cinematography, framing, staging, how certain shot has been taken, and you get to learn a lot from movies through their compositions, I feel. The way certain shot is taken, if there's a panoramic shot, if there's a close-up shot. And nowadays, especially with the rise in OTT, you get to see a lot of experimentation done in the movies, the way they are shot, the kind of colors they have been using, the VFX they've been using. So I think because that, in a way, by doing so, it improves your observation skills. So when you are in the real world, when you're like, going around, or nowadays a lot of people are like making reels. So those things kind of come in handy now, like the cutaway shots, transitions, how beautifully a camera moves. So all these things are also important because animation is not just about drawing, right? It's filmmaking also. So these are also important aspects. Just by making good animation, it won't work unless it has some good close-up shots, some track away shots, some zoom in shots. So those things are also important. Those are borrowed from filmmaking only. So I think those things are also important. Basically, observation. So for instance, if you're just at the beach and you're taking a video, you need to be very creative how that video is being taken. First, you take a tracking shot, then you zoom into that one person playing, one kid playing in the sand, then probably a shot of some person eating sev puri or bhel puri. So you basically through filmmaking, whatever you learn from filmmaking or through movies, you understand how to do better storytelling. If that is something that you learn, storytelling, I should like, if narrowed down, storytelling is a skill that I would say. If you learn how to tell stories, then even if your skills like your drawing is mid, and if you can tell beautiful stories, you will like navigate through, find some people to collaborate for your drawings, and then you can just deliver a really good project. And that applies anywhere, like not just animation or filmmaking, but if you're designing a campaign for a product, an ad campaign or whatever. So these things, or even if you're making reels for Instagram or you're just making short films, like I think observing storytelling, all these things, slightly understanding how filmmaking is done, all these things are important. Those are very important skills now, at least at the moment, I feel.
Okay. Okay. So just to summarize, three skills that you told are core important. One is observation skill. Second is analyzing the movies, how the are being
Yeah.
shot and all the details of it. And the third is storytelling.
Storytelling is probably the combination of the first two only.
Yeah,
If you,
right. Well, all the three skills go hand in hand, basically.
yeah.
Okay. So,
Because I
yeah,
realize inspiration is everywhere. We just need to observe it. Like,
true.
for instance, you see something really mundane happening and you think that it's a very cute moment, but it's nothing great. But
Right,
someday you'll watch some reel or some movie where a similar moment has been shot and shown to you beautifully, and you'd be like, oh, I've seen this somewhere happening.
right.
It's just that you didn't see that it has the novelty or it has that quality that it could be filmed or it could be shown on a bigger screen. So someone will just see it more creatively and just will film it, and that's the reason why a lot of these movies that show very subtle moments are like those things get highlighted. They are like valued. So yeah, I think observation, storytelling, slightly filmmaking, all these things are like important, I think.
So, sir, how did you start your professional career?
uh I mean, after my graduation was done, I was applying to a lot of design studios. Like there were campus placement options also, but then I was very keen on working with design studios. So I applied to a lot of them. I was applying to Bombay Duck Design from the past 2, 3 years, every time for an internship. But this time I was like, I'll just try one last time. Let's see if this time it works out. And this time, luckily, they had an opening. My timing was good and I got in. And Yeah, and that's how I started off. Like I worked for the design studio like for a year, then with another design studio for 1.5 year, and then eventually I went ahead into the product side of things. But yeah, initial 2.5 years were strictly with design studios, which was like the best part, I think, because you get to work on different projects every month. Different projects come up with different challenges, different art styles, different kind of direction, and it's just fun. Like it's not mundane ever. Like you get to experience new things, meet new people, new clients. So yeah, uh, that was it. And yeah, my work at Bombay Duck Design was actually that was like the best studio that I worked in, because it was, first of all, it was like my first professional working experience. And the client used to come up with some requirements, and there were two people who used to art direct me, Samir Kulavur and Zeenat Kulavur, and I used to sort of come up with illustration solutions for either the campaign or the packaging or whatever it was required. And I realized that their attention to detail was a lot, and that's the reason why I had to sort of I mean, I remember working and making a lot of explorations, like a lot, like weeks used to go just in explorations. And once we lock onto something, then we used to start drawing. So I realized that if the project would go for a month, at least 2 weeks, I would just be exploring, because it's so difficult to come up with something that's something that would be passed on. Otherwise, they were very strict that way. So that's why 2, 3 weeks used to go in exploration, and then within a week we used to just lock things and start working on the illustration. So yeah, and because of which, we have that notion that if we have some idea, we'll just sketch, and the first 3, 4 explorations would be something that we would stick to, and we'll just pick one. But over there, I realized like weeks and weeks, like 1, 2 weeks, you just explore, explore, explore. And then once your brain stops working, you don't know what else you can come up with. Something will just strike you, and you'll just come up with something that's very different that nobody has seen before. And my portfolio, like all my crazy work in my portfolio is from the time I worked in Bombay Duck Design, because now when I think back, I realized that, I pushed myself way too much in that studio. And I think, yeah, that's the reason. I mean, that laid a good foundation for me, and whatever design thinking or attention to detail that I have. I think it like all credit goes to my time in Bombay Duck
Okay.
and quick nonsense. Yeah, both.
Okay, okay. So, what do you think? How much of time management or how much of time you need to dedicate professionally during a day's time? So, generally, people are very, stuck with 10 to 6 job concept. But when it
Mhm.
comes to design, is it the same thing? You had to work beyond your working hours, or how is it?
I mean, it all depends on the place you're working. So in Bombay Duck Design, it used to be, I mean, we had working hours, fixed working hours, but sometimes like work used to get hectic. I used to work for longer hours too. And sometimes, like I said, like for a month, if we are getting a project and just 3 weeks go in just exploration because we are not happy with any option, and then we just have 1 week left, then we'll have to push ourselves in that 1 week. So you can't expect that you'll just work for those 6, 7 hours or 8 hours, and if things don't happen, you will deliver it late. You need to deliver it on time also, right? So those things are something that you need to keep in account, and like there would be time spillover definitely, but I think that's more or less in design studios. But when it comes to corporates, I don't think that's the problem. But in design studios, yeah. But the thing is, the environment is very different. You're like in a very creatively simulated environment, so you don't feel like the time flows. You don't feel like you worked for so long. It's like when you're drawing, like it happens to me, right? When I'm drawing, sometimes I look at the clock, it's 12. Then after some time when I look at the clock, it's 3:30, and I don't realize how time went. Right. So you feel that way when you're working in a design studio, because you enjoy the process so thoroughly. So yeah, from the outside it may feel like it doesn't it's the work hours are not fixed, but when you're working inside in that high energy environment, you don't feel it.
Right. So, at Bombay Duck Designs, what
Yeah.
was your role and responsibility?
I was a junior illustrator and graphic designer.
Okay.
So I was art directed by Zeenat Kulavur and Sameer Kulavur. And like I said, like we used to get some briefs, we used to work on it, make explorations. I used to work on the illustrations, and the art direction was done by Zeenat and Sameer, and they used to sort of guide me with the right colors, or if the composition needs to rework, or how to compose things, how to lay things out. And a lot of times, like when we were slightly free, there were no projects. We used to work on in-house projects. So Sameer used to work on his artwork. So sometimes we used to go get prints done and all those things also. And I enjoyed that also because I met a lot of good printers in Bombay. I visited a lot of good printers. I understood how printing is done. What kind of paper do you use for printing? They used to also document their work. They used to shoot their work for their shop and everything. So I learned how to document things also, how to package things. So these are things that are not part of your job, but then you still get to learn these things. You understand things that probably you didn't even sign up for. So yeah, I mean that was the whole my time in Bombay.
Okay. And then with Quick Brown Fox Design Studios?
It was pretty similar, but that time I was working with a team. So we were three designers. In Bombay Tech, I was the only designer. So
Okay.
in Quick Brown Fox, there were two more designers and there were two art directors. There was Kriti Monga and Hanuman Khanna. So that some of the projects were handled by Kriti. So Kriti used to borrow one or two designers, and the other designer was working with Hanuman. So we used to like split time to time, but we all were working in one design studio. But that time lasted only for a few months, and then pandemic happened, and then we had to work from home. But yeah, the projects were quite similar, but I would say in Quick Brown Fox, it was more graphic design heavy than illustration. Uh, Mostly because the clients were such that the projects and clients were such that they didn't need the illustration requirement was not that heavy. It was more or less packaging and more graphic design heavy. So that is something that I got a chance to venture into when I was in Quick Brown Fox, because earlier in Bombay Duck, my work was more illustration heavy. I used to work on illustration based projects. But over here, I was working on graphic design based project, and illustration was just like a side addition. So you could say it was just another new thing that I ventured when I was working with Quick Brown Fox. So because of that, once I left Quick Brown Fox, I had like a combined skill set that I developed over the past 2.5 years: graphic design and illustration. So
Okay.
that's how I see.
Okay. Okay. So can you just walk us through your creative process when you start a new project?
So my creative process is pretty simple. Like I think that's something that people like in all the studios or all the design teams, they have a very similar process. So first we start like with research. Like if, for example, if the project is about the city of Mumbai, right? So I'll first do a lot of research, watch a lot of videos, see what has been written, or probably go to Pinterest or all these places. I'll just uh, make a mood board, and if I feel that it's still not working out for me, then I'll literally take my camera and go out, and I'll actually go and click some photos, talk to people who've been living here for a very, very long time, and try to understand how things used to be. Probably watch some old movies also. So, everything that sort of gives me the idea of what exactly I want. And once that is done, then probably uh, discuss, brainstorm ideas with the team, and or even if it's with me, I'll discuss it with like my friends or with my sister or somebody, just to bounce off some ideas, ask them what they think about it and all of that. And once that is done, then probably I'll start with some sketching, like some small composition thumbnail sketches, and and once that is done, what I do is I just don't like I make a lot of explorations, because I feel like the first few explorations are right on top of your head, right? So they need to get out. Once that is done, only then something new would come up. And then I spent good 1 2 days in just exploring, like making some small sketches, thumbnails, looking at something. For example, if I made a thumbnail or if I've made a sketch and I feel like I have seen something like this, some composition like this, then I'll try to find a similar composition somewhere else, or maybe some movie poster or whatever. And once that is done, then I try to sort of I go back to the mood board, try to understand the commonalities in all the photos. For example, when it comes to Bombay, a lot of people use a very gray blue kind of a color palette, right, for Bombay, because the sea, the cement, the concrete, and tarpaulin, and all those things. So
So, how do you adapt your artwork to meet specific requirements of different projects? For example, if a client is coming up with a brief and you
mm,
have to meet those requirements, apart
yeah.
from doing so, one thing is when you design it for yourself, and the
Mm.
other thing is when you design on client brief. So, what is the difference? How do you cope up? Do you find any difficulties, or you're very comfortable with it?
No, no, I'm actually pretty comfortable. I won't say that I'll be able to deliver exact style that they're looking for, but I'll try to reach as close as possible. Reason being that in college, everyone is struggling to find their style, right? And it's a very it's something that has been discussed way too much. And I realized that I also was somebody who was like struggling to find my style and all of that. And I realized that in pursuit of that, I tried exploring a lot. I tried making things in vector, something realistic, something very graphic, something just with sketch pen, ball pen, whatever. And I tried to master each and every medium. I won't say that I successfully did it, but because of that, what happened was, and especially when I started working in design studios, is like your art style doesn't matter, because what the client comes and what's the mood of the project, you'll have to deliver it accordingly. And since I had not developed a style or whatever, uh, that kind of helped me to be more versatile. I was always in the struggle of exploring new mediums, new styles, so that I can find my style. But because of that, I was comfortable with digital medium. I was comfortable with vector. I was comfortable with handwork. And when I worked with design studios, every client had a new requirement. Every project required a new style, and it was easy for me to adjust and adjust myself according to the project. And that is when I realized that, I mean, I was glad that I don't have one specific style, even though when I post things on Instagram, or I talk about this to people, people say that, oh, you have a particular style. But I don't think so. I mean, it's not very distinct, but that has been like a blessing in disguise, because of which I can adapt and work on any projects. I'm not limited to just certain type of projects. So yeah, I mean, for me, it was a very different story altogether. And I would personally advise people, don't run behind finding a style, because later on you'll just be stuck with a lot of limitation. Instead, just be open to exploring new mediums. Try to sort of imitate someone's style. Try to sort of make ball artwork with ball pen, make artwork with sketch pens, or sometimes just be creative. Try to use watercolors, make some digital artwork. Some people just are comfortable with one medium and they decide ki no, this is what I'm going to explore. I'm going to become a nerd at it, and then eventually this is going to be my style. Like, good for you, because you'd master that particular medium, but then you shouldn't stop yourself at that only. You should come up with something else, otherwise you'll limit yourself. So I think for me that was the case. And during my time in design studios is when I realized that, I mean, I realized that it's good that I don't have a specific style, so that I could adapt to all the project requirements. Because I've seen people who had a very distinct specific style, and they used to struggle in those projects. And a lot of times they were replaced by people who were more versatile.
Right.
Even though the people whose art style was very distinct were doing really well, they were popular, they had a huge following and everything, but they struggled to make certain things which someone who was just more versatile could easily pull off.
Right.
So I
Right.
think being open to new mediums and new styles should be very important. If you want to be an illustrator, if you want to be an artist, then definitely, more power to you. Just explore whatever medium suits best to you.
But if you want to be a successful illustrator and a graphic designer, then you should be, because even in graphic design, right, the trends keep changing every year. One year you'll see that gradients are in trend. The next year you would see like flat colors are in trend. There would be a time when black and white is in more trend. So if you stick, I'll just use these colors or I'll just use this style, times keep changing, right? So you need to evolve accordingly.
Right. So, how do you stay updated continuously? Do you keep learning new things? And is it on job, or apart from that, do you do anything to learn new skills?
I mean, I keep taking up some courses now and then, like some Skillshare course or some Domestica course. And apart from that, also, see, technology is evolving, right? Like 3 years back, I still remember that day when I was in a design studio and we were working on Illustrator. And somebody, like one of our art directors, she told me that Figma is coming up, it's a new software, you better learn it and all. And I was like, Illustrator is such a legacy software. Why would any software replace Illustrator? I mean, it's still not replaced, but a lot of people have moved to Figma now. And when I started working professionally, I realized that people are actually like shifting to Figma. And then I started learning Figma. Now there are so many plugins within Figma. Now there are AI softwares coming up. There are so many things. So yeah, you should definitely adapt to newer things. And some places there are no saturation. Like earlier, it was just these Adobe softwares and then Figma. But now in AI, there are so many softwares that you don't understand where to start. So at that time, you just see what your requirement is, what kind of work you want to do, or what kind of work or what kind of software will bring value to your life, and just pick that one software and like learn it. I mean, it's still better than like doing things the old way and like spending hours to do something which could be done within minutes, right? So I think for Figma also, like Figma cut down so much time because three people can work on one project together. So it skips the back and forth sending file and all of that. And if you think about it, it saved so much time for people, right? So I think in the end, what matters is, at least for businesses, that how fast can you deliver something, right? And the quality shouldn't compromise. Like you shouldn't compromise the quality. So Figma sort of proved its worth by not letting the quality being compromised for the designers, and also saving a lot of time. So similarly, now there are so many AI softwares and all these things. So you need to keep yourself updated. There was a time when a lot of people refused to learn computers,
Right.
and yeah, right. So everyone eventually got like on board, right? So I think it's something similar. You should keep yourself updated all the time.
Okay. What are the softwares that you generally use apart from Figma and Illustrator?
Figma and Illustrator, I heavily work on Procreate on my iPad,
Okay.
and and AI softwares is something that I'm still figuring out which ones to work, which ones suit me. But while doing my study, I came across some of the AI softwares which I felt like are really, I don't know, like user friendly that way. But apart from all of that, I realized, according to like better UX practices, there are so many AI software that are coming up, but and people are struggling to learn new softwares, right? So what is happening is, these legacy softwares, it is easier for people to learn through these legacy softwares only than to learn a new software altogether. That's why even if you're not learning a new AI software, whatever plugins or new features that these softwares are coming out, like even in Photoshop there is generative AI, in Illustrator there is generative AI, or in Shutterstock they are coming out with AI features, right? So if you use these softwares only, so quickly adapt to these new features within the software. You don't have to learn a new software. Even if you master the AI feature within the software that you're comfortable with, that is also something that will also keep you up to date, I feel. You
Right.
don't need to learn a different software, like don't get into mid journey and all these things. These are good softwares. If you like enjoy working on those softwares, like more power to you, go ahead. But if you're starting up, then and you're comfortable with Illustrator, Photoshop and all, then usme bhi ye generative AI feature hai. Like you can like start with that, master it, and if you feel you need to come up with something much more better, this software is not living up to your expectation, then push yourself to learning on another software. So for me, the other softwares, I won't say software, but I've been like trying to get my hands on this generative AI feature on Photoshop, Illustrator. There is also this website called Open Art AI. That's
Right.
also a very good site. You get to sort of I mean, it's a simpler, user-friendly version of Mid-Journey. You can do a lot of things. You can like increase the resolution, decrease the resolution. It has a better background deleting ability, and it can edit your photos well and all of those things. So, for example, if you're working for a social media team and you need quick images and all, and if your company doesn't mind the designers using AI software, then OpenArt AI can also be like a good option. OpenArt AI or generative AI feature from Photoshop itself. So, and a lot of these companies have Shutterstock subscription. Now, Shutterstock also has AI feature. So, you use that feature. So, you don't have to specifically learn a new software, I feel. So,
Okay.
that's what I've been doing. I've just been like keeping up to date with the new features in the legacy softwares only.
Okay. Okay. So, as a senior brand designer in fintech sector, what are your primary responsibilities, challenges? What are the projects you're working on?
So usually, whenever there's like a new feature that is rolling out like by the company. So I work in a central brand team. I don't just work with the brand team. I also work with the product team. So whenever there is like a new feature that's coming up, we make digital assets for them. We make icons, we make illustrations, animations, and everything. So we design that language, we design that style, that language, and that is used with the by the product team. And eventually, when the product is done and it's developed, and now it's being pushed by the marketing team for sales, that is when they repurpose the same visuals that we had made for the product team. They use it for marketing. So that is when, so I designed the central language. Me and my colleague, we designed the central language, and that same language is used by the product team. The same language is used by the marketing team also. So when it comes to marketing, also we use the same visuals, same illustrations. We tweak them a little bit. Then we try to make flyers, banners, Instagram posts, and all of that using the same language. So that's how, that is what we do. Like I try to see that whatever we are making is consistent, that works for both the departments, for marketing and for product, and also it fits into the overall language of the brand, right? Because new feature, with every new feature you can't be very experimental, that it looks a very different project altogether. It should feel like it belongs to that brand only. Like for example, if it's Geo or if it's Vodafone and if the color is red, you can't run away from that color itself, right? You need to play in the same universe. So those are the things that I sort of look after. And that is when that whole consistency, composition skills, and how to play with certain colors and all of that, that comes in handy. Like your fundamentals come in handy in such places when you have to work with restrictions and with constraints, because that's how design is, I feel.
Okay. So, can you share some of your works? Can you share the screen and share some of your work?
Share my screen just a second. Now can you see this, or is that can you?
Yeah, there's alphabet art, right?
Yeah. So this is the app that I designed, and this was developed by those girls. And I'll just take you through the project. Basically, I did like a web version and the mobile phone version. So this project was a culmination of everything: some UI work, illustration work, graphic design, everything that I learned, everything I added in this one project.
Okay.
It was just developed by these girls. So this was the NGO, this was their team, and these were the girls who were working on it.
Right.
And this was the whole journey, like I told you, right? Research, and then I defined the target audience, I ideation, rough design, then it was developed by the girls, it was tested, and then final development happened. Then the mood board, the kind of colors that I wanted to make it colorful, and like we took reference from Sesame Street and some other websites.
Right.
And then this was wireframe that I worked on, the initial version.
Right.
And then yeah, I also did the branding, the logo of the Alphabet Art website.
Mhm.
Finally was the one that we picked. Then I put my work on merchandise just to see how, if they further have to like give away some merchandises, some
Right.
t-shirts, bags, then how will that look?
Right.
Then the typography, the fonts that I used, the colors that I used, and then the illustrations. So every alphabet has an illustration. So it's basically teaching alphabets through drawings was the whole idea of this website. So A for alien, B for butterfly. Similarly, made all A to Z alphabets here, and then the final UI screens they look like this.
Right.
And you can also purchase this art. You can purchase the stickers that the kids made out of the art. So this website is live, and these were the students. Basically,
Okay.
these are the students who, developed this website. They stay
Okay.
in Himachal Pradesh, and they were taught by this one person who was like a senior software developer at White Hat Junior. He left the job and he started working with his NGO. So he trained these girls to develop this website, and I designed the UI for this website.
Okay.
So this was the one project. Then when I was with Bombay Duck, I designed for brands like Diageo. This was like an alcohol brand. So these were all the alcohol, like the bottles of all the liquor bottles, and we had to come up with mascots, and we had to show all the characters associated with each and every brand within Diageo. We kind of decided that we'll make like a parade of all the mascots and all the characters that are associated with individual brand, right? So we have the McDowell's man, we have Bagpipers, the Army man. Then we had Gordon, like uh, the boar of the Gordon, and all those things. And these, so if you notice, each and every character is associated with the brand. And then these were the initial styles. These were the explorations, the initial rough sketches, then some style exploration also. I thought that we'll go with something very minimal, but eventually this was further exploration, and then we somehow decided that we'll end up working with this, and then some color explorations, and then this was the final output. This was actually printed on a wall in their office for some function, and then these are individuals close-up shots. So if you get to see, like, there are tiny things that I've made, and you get to see these over here. Like, there is a man doing acrobatics, and then there is this sutli bomb that we was during Diwali. Then some person is being electrocuted on a UFO, and there is this Kathakali dancer taking a selfie. Then BST bus from Bombay. So so I worked on such projects. I made myself also over here holding a camera.
Wow, this is very interesting. Lot of attention to detail, lot of emotion. It's very
Exactly.
interesting.
I mean, there are small things like this.
Yeah.
There are hands carrying a flag.
Oh wow.
Like, yeah, so these small things that we've done, and there's like Bombay Taxi, Kali Pili Taxi, and all of that. And yeah, so this was the project that I did with Bombay Duck Designs, and then there were some other projects also that I've worked on, like some animation work that I did when I was in NID. So that's a way. I'll send a link to this to you if in case if you want to,
Right.
go it
Right.
further. So all these projects, like from here to here, all of them are like my NID projects. So I'll take you through one of the NID projects also. So we had to make like a character design. And what we do is in NID, we make a character design Bible. So we just don't design the character, we write about it, we explain what the character is. So we had to design our own childhood character. Okay, so this was I never used to look like this, but I took the creative liberty of, like, changing my hair and all of that. So basically this was the project I did. This was back in 2015. It's like 9 years old now, this project. And so I wrote like a small introduction about myself, physical description of how I used to look, what kind of clothes I used to wear. I used to wear relaxo slippers, wearing loose t-shirts and track shorts, all of that. And then an age comparison, like childhood, then the kind of, like, probably like very young, then the kind of character that I want to design, and then how I used to look when I was in NID, right? These three versions, and I picked this one and designed it further. So all the three angles of the character, and then all the expressions of the character, and then gestures like playing, jumping. And then we had to make one more character. So this character was basically an alter ego of your character. So when I was in school, my dad used to like make me shave my head every time I used to go to school. So my friends used to call me Ganju Ganju. So,
Okay.
so I made this alter character to my own character. So this was the alter character, and I showed him. I portrayed him like a little psychopath, and like he's like always cranky and all of that. So I designed him also. So that's why his face has that evil laugh, and
Right.
these are the expressions. There's this evil laughter also over here, and then there are his gestures, and I've like drawn a smiley on his head also on the back of his head. So we used to do all these fun stuff in NID. So this was the character, and for all of these, no, I've literally posed. I've clicked pictures of myself and then looked at those photos as a reference, and I've then drawn them.
Okay.
So that's the reason why we got the anatomy and everything right. Because such kind of attention to detail we used to, we had to pay attention to because like we were scored on these things. So that's why. And then, yeah, and the height comparison and everything, and the silhouettes, how they would look. So in character design, they used to tell us that even through a silhouette, you should identify your character. It
Right.
shouldn't look generic. So the spiky hair were that had that recall value. Like if you look at the round head with spiky hair, you would understand that this is my character. Or like this small peak on the head, that's my character. And that's like a retaining feature in all the photos. If you notice,
Right.
characters, if you notice, all of them had that peak, right?
Right.
So you need to pay attention to such things so that even if you have to make a character in silhouette, people can
Mhm.
identify how the character is or who the character is.
Right.
And then in color, they look like this. So, I mean, that was one project during NID. And yeah, I mean, such were most of the projects. So we recently published this just 3 4 days back. This is our work in our office in small case. So this is not entirely my work. The animation is done by someone else. Me and my colleague, we have art directed this. The assets have been designed by us and everything. All this layout and all has been designed by us. But basically, there is a new offering of loan against mutual funds. So we designed these characters. This is like the latest work, like few months back. We've just done it and we uploaded it like 3 4 days back. So the animation and all we've been doing. So the color palette, then the process, the sketches and all, and what do these sketches mean. We had to basically simplify complex terms like loan, mutual funds, and all of that in simple visuals. So that is what we did over here. And these are the illustrations that we made for the same, and the logo design for it, and what's the story behind it, and how the visual looks in a bigger screen, and how does it look on a smaller screen or a smaller UI element. And yeah, then there was this introduction video, like it's a proper video of, I don't know, it'll lag now if I play here, but a proper video. And yeah, I mean, these were the projects and some illustrations, standalone illustrations that I made in my free time. Some drawings that I just work on when I like feel like. These are all independent drawings. They are not associated with any projects, but these are all the independent drawings. Some of them are part of some solo freelance work. So yeah, yeah. So such are the projects, and if you want to sort of look at them further, there are like a lot of these small things here. I worked on this one more project where I worked on this during the pandemic. This was a personal project. This was basically when people were not getting slots for the vaccines. So I made this small project where I just mentioned that it's so difficult to get a slot, and all the slots are always booked. That people are not getting it, and it was like fastest finger first. Like within seconds the slots get full. So I made this illustration of this one vaccine, and everyone is like jumping on it to just get their dose. So
Right.
I added a lot of fun stuff here. I made like a Ramdev Baba trying to twist his arms and reach to the whale. Then made this girl trying to use a hook to hold this. Then there is a Twitter bird trying to jump and take this. Then if you watch Lord of the Rings, there is Gollum. Everyone is running behind this, and the Gollum is looking, holding his ring over here. He doesn't care about the vaccine. So I did all of this. I made some of my friends also over here, just
That
randomly. Yeah, yeah. So, and then, yeah, I mean, I showed the process also first, like just inking, then flat colors, then, the colors, then with texture and everything. And these were the close ups. These are all like personal projects, all of this. So, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot. Like, if I show you, it'll take a lot of
Yeah,
time.
seriously, there's seriously a lot of things we got to learn from you. Just one last question, sir. What is the last piece of advice you would like to give to budding animators?
Animators. I'll be like be open to technology because I mean I feel that there are like two type of people, one who adapt to it and others who try to oppose it. But we've known that opposing has never done good because technology will not stop evolving. So learn everything that's needed, but don't forget the fundamentals. I won't say that just stick to the AI driven software or all of that. If learning fundamentals is important, like learn how to animate on paper like traditional way also, because that will help you understand your timing, and that will sort of improve your principles of animation. It'll Your principles of animation will become very thorough. And then later on, when you're using tools or any softwares, these things will only come handy. But if you directly jump to like AI software or whatever, then no matter how good how good you are, it won't work because your fundamentals are not in place. So I would always suggest that work on your fundamentals. I till date sometimes like not sometimes, but every 3 4 days I just sit and sketch, because I need to understand the anatomy and everything. That is something that you can't like perfect. You need to keep practicing, evolving. I still remember like there are times when I don't sketch for 3 4 months, and when I hold the book, it takes me at least 1 hour to get back to my the flow, because I kind of my the brain muscle coordination, if you'd say that kind of your hands, they forget how to move. So you need to constantly keep practicing. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for your time. I hope a lot of budding students and aspiring designers will gain a lot of knowledge and insights from this podcast. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This was fun. I
Yeah,
hope this helps.
yeah, we hope this helps. It will definitely help. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank
thank you,
you.
sir.